Fantastic Four.
A Fantastic Four movie in the works. It is not only in the works, it's just about finished. It'll be released sometime, I think, the end of this year. And I'm not expecting too much of it. It's the last movie to be made that we at Marvel had no control over. Our lawyers just gave the rights to Roger Corman to do the movie. There will be no other projects like that. Everything after that, we're doing ourselves.
Welcome back to Disasterpiece Theatre, where we dissect the fascinating train wrecks of cinema history. I'm Sean Weathers.
And I'm Angus Combe. Today we're venturing into the strange, unlit corner of Marvel lore. Roger Corman's never officially released 1994 adaptation of the Fantastic Four.
This isn't just a film that missed the mark, Angus. This is a story about rights retention, dashed Hollywood dreams, and a final product so legendarily unseen it's almost mythical. A true ashcan copy brought to flickering life.
Precisely, Sean. For those less versed in comic book arcana, an ashcan was a quick, cheap publication designed solely to secure a copyright or a trademark. And this film, it seems, served a very similar, very pragmatic purpose for Constantin Film.
The year is 1994. German production company Constantin Film holds the precious film rights to Marvel's premier superhero family. But there's a deadline looming. Produce a Fantastic Four film by year's end, or the rights revert. And that clock is ticking.
Enter the king of B-movies, Roger Corman, a man renowned for his ability to conjure features from minimal budgets and even less time. Alongside producer Bernd Eichinger, the directive wasn't necessarily to craft a masterpiece, but to get something in the can.
With a reported budget hovering around a mere $1 million, practically catering money for a superhero film, even in the 90s. And being honest about the budget, maybe a third of that is legitimate. Corman, who did everything in-house, was given an outside budget, so it was up to him to say how much every expense costs. Maybe if it's fully in-house, editing is $1K a day. If it's not, maybe it's $20K. Not casting dispersions, but if you look at this movie and you think it costs $1 million, I got a bridge to sell you. Regardless, with that, the Fantastic Four lurched into production. The cast, largely comprised of hopeful unknowns, likely saw this as their golden ticket.
And they committed, Sean. They even undertook a promotional tour, with actor Michael Bailey Smith, who portrayed Ben Grimm, reportedly sinking $12,000 of his own money into travel and publicity for himself and the others. The passion was palpable, even if the studio's ultimate endgame was considerably more opaque.
This is where the narrative shifts from simple low-budget production to something more akin to a backroom Hollywood deal. While the cast and crew poured their efforts into making a movie, the real drama, it appears, was happening in boardrooms and lawyers' offices. The prevailing theory is that the film's primary function was to allow Constantine to hold on to those valuable rights.
Stan Lee himself has been quoted stating the film was never intended for public consumption, a means to an end. Yet the story isn't quite so straightforward. If it was purely an ashcan, why complete it to the degree they did? Why cut a trailer? Why send actors out to promote it?
Leverage, Angus. It's the oldest play in the book. A finished film, even a flawed one, with a promotional push, makes that intellectual property appear more tangible, more developed, and thus more attractive to potential partners or buyers. And that's precisely what unfolded. Bernd Eichinger is said to have brokered a lucrative deal with 20th Century Fox, contingent on this Corman version remaining shelved. Corman too allegedly received a cool $1 million for his troubles.
And then enters Avi Arad, who would become a pivotal figure in the rise of Marvel Studios. He eventually acquired the film negative and, as the story goes, had all known prints destroyed. The hopeful cast received cease and desist letters, their superhero dreams unceremoniously extinguished.
It's a stark reminder of the often unseen machinery of Hollywood. The creative endeavors of many serving the strategic financial goals of a few. Now, let's objectively examine the film itself, based on the bootlegs and surviving copies that have circulated. Regardless of the behind the scenes machinations, the final film is undeniably a product of its severe limitations.
The screenplay, for instance, employs some rather expedient storytelling. The perennial challenge of justifying Sue and Johnny Storm's presence on a dangerous space mission is resolved by Ben Grimm declaring, "We knew them when they were kids, and they'll be mad if we don't take them." It's almost disarmingly direct.
The on-screen execution is equally resourceful, shall we say. Action sequences, particularly Ben's transformations, or any physical confrontation, often rely on disorienting screen spins and abrupt cuts to the aftermath. Classic Corman-esque techniques to suggest action without the expense of depicting it. There's even a now infamous moment where three of the Fantastic Four appear to exit a room by simply ducking out of the shot, as no practical exit existed in that direction.
Character arcs and plot developments are similarly brisk. Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters forge a deep connection after a mere 30 seconds of screen time. Victor Von Doom's pivotal transformation into the menacing Doctor Doom occurs entirely off-screen, a significant character beat relegated to an ellipsis in the narrative.
Logic and attention to detail are often secondary concerns. After their spacecraft crashes, the male members of the team celebrate their survival before even ascertaining Sue's fate, keeping in mind that these three men are a childhood friend who invited her on the mission, her brother, and her lover. Sue, in turn, materializes their iconic power-resistant costumes with no explanation of her sudden textile engineering prowess, and the Human Torch's mission to destroy Doom's laser outside of his castle somehow propels him into outer space.
From a technical standpoint, the film also shows its seams. Doctor Doom's dialogue is frequently muffled and indistinct, a telltale sign that ADR, the process of re-recording dialogue in post-production, was likely skipped for an actor speaking through a heavy mask. These aren't mere aesthetic choices. They're indicators of a production racing against the clock and the budget.
Viewed objectively, the 1994 Fantastic Four is a fascinating document of extreme low-budget filmmaking, a collection of compromises and shortcuts born of necessity.
I may be going out on a limb and sawing it off, but I think the Fantastic Four is a super fun B-movie delight. Sure, it's campy and over the top and silly at times, but that's what makes it so great. Honestly, I don't think it's any campier than the TV shows I watched as a kid, such as Wonder Woman, The Incredible Hulk, and Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And I'm sure I would have loved this movie back then. Younger people may not remember, but this was before the average filmgoer ever thought that superheroes could be dark, serious characters for adults. The makers of the Fantastic Four probably figured they were making a fun comic book movie for kids. They were channeling Saturday morning cartoon energy, and I, for one, would have gotten up early to watch this.
This 1994 Fantastic Four is a cinematic paradox. As a guerrilla filmmaker who's navigated the trenches of zero-budget production, there's a part of me that almost admires the sheer audacity, the let's put on a show spirit that clearly drove the cast and crew. You see the sweat, the ambition, the attempt to make something out of virtually nothing. But this isn't an original screenplay. It's the Fantastic Four. And the film makes some perplexing, frankly, troubling choices with Marvel's first family. The decision to frame Reed Richards as significantly older than Susan Storm in a way that evokes grooming is a critical misstep. I mean, he's Mr. Fantastic, not Drake. Likewise, Alicia Masters' intensely physical, almost fetishistic reaction to the mold she makes of Ben Grimm's face makes you question what else is she molding of his, and ventures into a weird, uncomfortable territory for what should be an all-ages adventure. These aren't subtle nuances. They're choices that actively distract from the source material's spirit. The evidence of its rush genesis is everywhere. The spin and cut fight scenes, the characters ducking out of frames, the plot holes you could fly a spaceship through, the muffled villain dialogue. If this film had been released, it wouldn't have just underperformed. It could have been a brand killer for Marvel at a vulnerable time. It has more in common with the chaotic energy of Troll 2 than even the most maligned MCU offering. Those special effects truly live up to the special part of their name, and not in a good way. This is without a doubt quintessential Disasterpiece Theatre.
And so, the unreleased Fantastic Four remains a legend, a whispered cautionary tale in the halls of Hollywood.
Join us next time on Disasterpiece Theatre as we continue to unearth the behind-the-scenes stories of cinema's most memorable misfires.